All right, welcome back. 1 o'clock hour, the Connor Happer Show here on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. I think we did this research in the offseason, but USC is one of only a handful of opponents that Nebraska has played more than 3 or 4 times that they have never beaten. 0 times. That would include last year's game, the 2014 Holiday Bowl, and the last time USC visited Lincoln, 2007, as we just mentioned there before the break. We're now joined on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline, Scott Wolf, Inside USC. Scott, thanks for joining again. How we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Very, very good. Are you looking forward to a potential or a trip to Lincoln this year? Are you coming to the game?
I think I am coming. I've been there. I was there in 2007, like you were just talking about. I had a great time. So I'm probably going to go back. I think it's one of the best trips in the Big Ten, especially for people from LA, who don't get that kind of college atmosphere like Nebraska can offer and the fan experience. So, yeah, I think it's a really a good game to go to for any of the USC fans.
What are the expectations right now? Where do we sit? It's been sort of a rocky up and down last couple of years. 7-6 last year, but lost a lot of close games. What are the vibes right now on this 2025 group?
Well, really, there's like 2 completely different views of the team right now. The fans, I think, have very high expectations. I think they have a chance to make the college football playoff. Then you look at the odds makers, and they have USC at 7.5 for over or under for regular season wins. So they're not convinced. And then USC didn't make the coaches poll or the AP top 25 this week. So there's kind of a disconnect between what the fans expect and what the pundits and odds makers expect. And the problem with that is I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on Lincoln Riley this year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess where does the fan base sit with him at this moment? How much pressure is there on Lincoln Riley to win this year?
I think there's a lot of pressure for him to win, and I think a lot of the fans are tired of him. The problem is, everybody knows he makes $11 million a year, so they can't really buy him out at this point. And they've got the university itself has a $200 million budget deficit for the last fiscal year, so they're not in a great position right now to spend $80 million or whatever it would require to buy out his contract. So they're kind of stuck with each other. I think in a perfect world, maybe he would win some games and be able to get another job somewhere else, but that's probably not going to happen.
I remember, I think from our conversation last year that you particularly weren't that high on the direction that they were heading. I imagine for you last year probably didn't do anything to put you in a different direction on that front.
No, I'm not a fan of his. I've referred to him as a fraud on Twitter and in articles. I think he's done a pretty poor job. Now, there is this kind of weird thing going on with the program. They hired a GM in the offseason from Notre Dame, and they're paying him $1 million a year. And he was hired by the athletic director, and he reports to the athletic director. So he basically is running parts of the program instead of Lincoln Riley. He fired Lincoln Riley's strength coach. He demoted his director of operations. He's demoted some other people on staff. So, I don't know. Some people think this is great, that they're making changes. On the other hand, I don't know if everyone's on the same page in the program. So,
yeah,
it's a weird dynamic going on right now.
Is he still doing the stuff where the limiting media access and all that, or how's that been over the last year?
been pretty consistent. I mean, he lets the media watch about 15 minutes of warm-ups at the beginning of practice a couple days a week, and then that's about it. So it's less than what, USC typically allowed under previous coaches, but it might even be a little more than he allowed at Oklahoma, from what I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't do anything to really, endear himself to the media in LA. And he does less to endear himself to the fans. He won't even meet with fans or boosters or alumni or any stuff that a college football coach usually is required to do at a big marquee program.
From a football perspective, in the transfer portal, how did you feel like USC sort of turned out in that regard to make sure what happened last year doesn't happen again? Like, what steps were taken in the right direction from a football perspective?
Well, they've added a few transfers, but he's actually been less aggressive in the portal because one of his arguments now for why they didn't win in year 2 is that he said he was too aggressive in the transfer portal. So he's now focusing more on high school recruits, which we'll see. I mean, here's the bottom line. Their offensive line has question marks right now. The linebacker position has some questions, and I think the secondary has questions. So those are going to be the areas, when you guys play at SC, I think that are going to be, getting scrutiny. As usual, they're usually pretty good at the skill positions. And the defensive line is deeper and bigger than it's been in past years, so they should be better there. But they still do have legitimate question marks.
I remember that game last year, which was kind of a wild game. If you think about it, I mean, there were some crazy plays that happened in the Nebraska USC game last year. But if I remember right, that was one of Jayden Maiava's first starts, if not his first start last year. I wasn't particularly impressed with him. How did he progress at the end of last year? And would you expect him to, take that next step going into his second year at USC?
Well, he had a lot of games last year that were kind of similar where, he would play okay or good for stretches, and then he would throw a pick six. Or
really up and down.
Yeah, I think that happened in the Nebraska game, actually, if I remember
correct.
correctly.
I think Sierra Wright had one on him.
Yeah, the former Trojan.
Right.
The biggest moment of his life, I'm sure. But and he at the Notre Dame game, he threw 200-yard pick sixes, which was crazy. But then at the same time, he'll make a play at the end of the game, and they'll beat UCLA. And he played awful against Texas A&M, and then in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden got better and put it together, and they beat Texas A&M in the bowl game. So everyone's thinking now, well, you're the quarterback, you're the guy, so you're going to play much better this season. And there's not really a competition right now. They've given him the number one job, so it's all in his favor to have a good season. And if he doesn't, then they'll play, the true freshman 5-star Husan Longstreet, who's getting a lot of reps in practice.
One of the topics of the offseason has been the future of the Notre Dame game. Would you expect this to be the last time that these two teams meet this year?
I hope not. This has been a big sore point for me. This is pretty, Lincoln Riley's basically the only person at USC that wants to discontinue the series. And it's a very important game to the alumni and the fans. I don't know. I mean, I think what's going to happen is at the end of the day, they'll find a way to keep it going, even if it's just a short-term extension, and maybe they have to move the game to the beginning of the year instead of playing in the October, November time frame. But if they do it, they'll do it with Lincoln Riley objecting to it.
So what is refresh me? What is the argument and from the people who don't want to continue this series? Like, I think you and I feel the same way about non-conference games in general and how they should, teams should continue to challenge themselves in the non-con, even if they do have tough conference schedules. It's good for the fans. It's good for the fan base, all that stuff. But like, especially this game in particular, which is a historic college football rivalry. What is even the argument for not having this game on the schedule for USC?
Well, for people like me, there is no argument. For
Right.
him, what he says is, hey, how we can't make the college football playoff when we have to play a good team in a non-conference game, and then we got to go to South Bend every 2 years, and then we got to make all these road trips to, the Big Ten schools now. So he doesn't. Here's the thing: he doesn't like playing anybody good, let alone Notre Dame. So he didn't want to go to the SEC when he was at Oklahoma. He didn't want USC to move to the Big Ten. He just doesn't like playing good teams. He wants to win, 10 games a year with no problem. And he thinks this USC or Notre Dame game is somehow a problem, even though they've expanded the college football playoff. So you would think it would be easier than ever to make the college football playoff, and you could afford to lose a non-conference game. I mean, his problem is he couldn't beat Rutgers, no, he did beat Rutgers. He couldn't beat Maryland last season.
Right.
I mean, that's where they screwed up. It's not the Notre Dame game that's making or breaking him, but it's just crazy. I mean, there's a part of me actually that would love to see them discontinue the series because they have no idea what backlash they would get from the fan base.
Oh,
I mean, there's
yeah.
I know people, that donate, 7 figures to the university that have said, told them, I'm not going to give you any more money if you don't play Notre Dame anymore. So, I would love to see them try it and have it all blow up in their faces. But I can't imagine Jen Cohen, the athletic director, is so stupid that she would allow it to happen. But, they've tied this all to this Big Ten proposal where they want the 4 automatic bids to the college football playoff. And
Right.
They say, well, if that gets passed, we can play Notre Dame. But, to me, that's just ridiculous. I mean, I don't know why they need a guarantee of 4 teams in the playoff to play Notre Dame. It has nothing to do with Notre Dame. So, I don't know. It's the old, one of the oldest, biggest rivalries in college football. So I don't know why you would even consider messing with it.
Me too. We're on the same page in that category. With that being said, Scott, the schedule for SC it's pretty challenging this year. There's a trip to Illinois, who's ranked number 12 in the preseason top 25. Michigan comes to town. The trip to Notre Dame, the trip to Nebraska. Iowa comes to town, at Oregon, and then of course finish off with UCLA. It's a challenging schedule when you put it all together. I mean, when you're sort of mapping this thing out, where ultimately do you feel like USC falls from a win total perspective? What range do you feel like they might be in this year?
And the amazing part is they don't even have to play Ohio State or Penn State.
Right. It's still pretty challenging.
Yeah. No, I think this, the way you describe it is what the odds makers are looking at. And, I think that Illinois game is going to be a huge game for the season. And actually, I think this Nebraska game is going to be a huge game because if they lose to Nebraska, then they've got a lot of problems, I think. And I'm not saying, Nebraska's not going to be good, but I'm just saying, I think USC thinks they should win that game. So if they're losing that game, that's going to really put pressure on them in some of the other games they have. So I think that, around that 8-win mark is probably fair right now. I think they think inside the program they might be able to get 9 or 10 wins if they're lucky.
It's a tricky one. That's for
yeah,
sure.
I don't see that myself. I think the odds makers are usually pretty good on that stuff. So, if he wins 7 or 8 games, there's not going to be any happy people at USC. I can guarantee you that.
I'm looking at it last year. So I don't recall how the weather was in Washington on November 2nd, but then there was a trip to UCLA, obviously, which, not a concern there from a weather perspective. Nebraska could be the one game this year. It's November 1st, and you really don't have any idea what the weather's going to be like here on November 1st. It could be 70 or 28. And then there's a trip to Oregon this year. Like I wonder how that's sort of thought of when they've kind of been able to avoid the Big Ten weather, at least so far, through 1 year through the Big Ten slate.
Yeah, when they first moved, everyone talked about will they have to play those snow games. But I think the Big Ten actually has tried to kind of schedule some of those games early in the season. Like they went to Michigan in September, and they played Minnesota early in the year last season. So they haven't really had to deal with any weather issues. But yeah, if there's any kind of adverse weather in Nebraska, that's going to be another thing that's going to make this game a huge game. Like I see this game as a huge red flag on the schedule myself, because I remember, it's been 18 years, and I can still remember how loud the stadium was the last time USC played there. So that's not an easy place to play. And if you tell me there's going to be some weather issues too, then it's really a problem.
Yeah, you really don't know what it's going to look like. You could be walking in, Scott, when you make the trip here. I mean, you could be looking at a beautiful, lovely fall afternoon, or a disaster. There's really no way to know yet, and there's really no way to know like 24 hours before. So that's the other thing. Right? When Nebraska and USC played each other, it was in September in 2007. Yeah, and it was hot.
Yeah, it was a hot day. No weather was no issue. That I remember that. So that's the thing. They've never played at Nebraska that late in the season. Like I know they played there, I think in the early 70s, maybe.
Yeah, it was in 69. And I think Nebraska was number 1 at the time, or close to it. And then they tied when Nebraska went back there in 70, and that was like an all-time, great game. And then they didn't play each other again until 06.
But those games were always early in the season, like the first or second game of the year.
September. So they've never not played in September unless they played in a bowl game or last year in November in LA. All right, Scott. Well, we'll let you go. We look forward to talking again once this game gets a little bit closer. Appreciate the time as always, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, let's talk the week of the game.
Will do. All right. That is Scott Wolf Inside USC. He's right though. I'll tell you what, it is a fascinating time for a fascinating game. I hate to use that word, back to back there, but like it's a super intriguing game, because I don't know what I mean, think about this.
It's a big swing game for both teams. Right?
Totally. I mean, so they open up conference play with Purdue. They'll win.
Dub.
Michigan State, I don't know. At Illinois, I don't know. Michigan, I don't know.
Wow.
At Notre Dame, I don't know.
Whoa.
And then they have a bye week before they come to Lincoln. And then really
go off the rails.
I don't know. I probably not before that.
Mm-hmm.
But last year, remember, they had only lost to Michigan close, that road game, and it was in September last year. And so they were in number 11 in the country before they went to Minnesota and they got beat. Remember that game? Close game late. I think I can't remember exactly what happened at the end of that game, but it was, we're talking about in the last couple seconds of that game. That's where Minnesota won. I mean, USC went on this kind of weird run of losing these games close. Remember, wasn't Penn State beating the crap out of them, and then USC came all the way back, and then they still lost or something? I remember that USC Penn State game last year. They lost to Maryland by a point. And so they had all these close games last year. I don't know. It's a big moment, I think, for both of those teams on November 1st this year.
Both teams kind of feel like that's sort of the linchpin game, right? Like, just like
it's one of them.
If we get that one, we got USC was up 20-6 at halftime.
So USC was smashing Penn State,
and Penn State roared back.
Penn State came all the way up because they probably had to play 4 different quarterbacks to get there. And I remember Tyler Warren had some crazy plays in that game. I will say that. some comments. Josh, should we get to some comments?
Love comments.
What are the comments saying about Scott's yearly appearance on the show?
Let's see. Kenneth, really
He
happy
really, I mean,
you
he's
asked the question.
He's a Notre Dame guy.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask it anyway, for the record.
John comments in, I don't think Scott likes this Lincoln Riley character. It was weird because it was very subdued at first. And then the longer the conversation went on, maybe like the more comfortable he got, the more open he got, where it was just...
Well, we definitely agreed. We definitely agreed on the whole teams not playing teams thing.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's Lincoln Riley's big thing. He doesn't want to play anybody. At least that's the way Scott characterizes it.
Travis saw it the same way. Scott is trying so hard to tame his Riley dislike right now. Let the wolf run free. This is a safe place for you, Scott.
I was probably too blatant about just trying to tee him up for it.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's what I had in my scouting report. So
that's
I
what the audience wants.
Yeah. All right. We look forward to those chats every year. And yes, we will be talking again with Scott the week of Halloween. Maybe maybe somebody else will be talking with Scott Wolf on Halloween.
Like to usually do the opponent preview before Friday, but
all right,
depending
October
on his
30th.
Maybe that's a travel day for him. Halloween travel day.
It is tough to get the opponents when they're traveling to Lincoln, that's for sure, because it's usually very difficult to get to Lincoln.
If only Redway Airline existed still.
You're going to want to fly into our definitely brand new Omaha airport. Oh my God. He's going to have takes on the Omaha airport. He is not going to like it.
Podunk Town.
He is not going to like the Omaha airport. In 2007, it was this nice, charming little, couple gate airport.
Oh, this is nice. This is where George Clooney flew into and up in the air.
It was. Now it's
that came out in 2009. I'm sorry.
Now it's under construction. Once again, Nebraska 0-5-1 all time against USC. We did that research over the summer. It's just one of very few programs that they've played more than once and have never beaten. There's not very many of them at all. So they look to change that up this year. Let's take a quick break. We'll have more of your comments and more from us on the other side on 1620 The Zone.